Kia ora team, Chris Farhi here. Hey look, I thought I'd do something slightly different on the vlog. I know everybody loves the super shiny, brand new buildings, but I thought I'd just talk about a little bit of the news that's been of particular interest to real estate people over the last month or two. So first up, Wellington City Council has been looking at options for how it can help earthquake-prone building owners to fund strengthening works. So the article talked about a potential loan scheme, but it also said that they're looking at options including working with central government or potentially like a rates remission for the properties. So it's interesting because this gives you a bit of a sense of the bubble of strengthening works that's going to be required over the coming years, particularly in Wellington. So if you have an earthquake-prone building in New Zealand, the government sets a time frame for strengthening of that building. And so in Wellington, there's actually quite a few properties that it's affected. So there's about 563 earthquake-prone buildings, of which about 400 of those are in the priority list. And so the obvious problem being that those owners need to fund that investment to strengthen the building. And so that's where the council's looking at whether they've got some tools that they could throw towards that. So meanwhile, in the construction sector, the government's been consulting on potential changes to NZS 3910. If you're wondering about what's 3910, so basically it's the template for construction contracts in New Zealand. And if you're doing a large commercial building and that sort of stuff, it forms like the template standard terms for the agreement. And so although that sounds super dry, it impacts how a construction project is administered and also impacts how risk is transferred between the parties. And so the consultation is working on a pretty quick survey at the moment where they're just trying to understand where the priorities are. So if you're regularly working with construction contracts, so that would be like project managers, lawyers, developers, those sorts of people, it's well worth jumping on that and chucking your feedback in so that when they start making the changes, at least they're well informed about what the sector needs. Next up, moving into corporate real estate. So the government announced that for their office tenancies that are above 2,000 square metres, they're going to require energy efficiency certification by 2021. And so in short, what this means is that for new leases or for lease renewals above 2,000 square metres, the government will require a 4-star Neighbours rating, and for new buildings they'll be seeking a 5-star rating. So Neighbours NZ is an energy efficiency rating which looks at how much an office space uses relative to the number of occupants in it and its size. To give you a sense of the amount of office space that this impacts, so in 2017 the government occupied about 1.5 million square metres of office space, which is equivalent to about 40 of Auckland's Vero centres. So you're talking a huge amount of office space. So I think this is really interesting in two ways. The first is the direct impact on office buildings or office spaces that are or will be occupied by government tenants in terms of the need to certify the energy efficiency and also drive greater levels of efficiency. I think the second area is how this might provide a benchmark for other corporate tenants in the market, and having the knowledge that, hey, the government seeks this level of energy efficiency, and so maybe they'll expect a similar level when they go about their leases as well. Next up, also in corporate real estate land, we've got Contact Energy who hit the news with an announcement that they're looking to sublease most of their head office space in Wellington. So this was driven by a change to their workplace model, which will enable their staff to work from home more, which in turn reduces the amount of office space. This item was interesting because in corporate real estate, there's been a lot of discussion around the impact of remote working on the amount of office space that tenants require. But Contact Energy is probably the first tenant to make a really big move in terms of their leasing structure. Finally, big announcement in Dunedin with ACC and ngaitahuproperty teaming up to develop ACC's new offices in Dunedin. So this is pretty exciting because in Dunedin there hasn't been a huge amount of office development in recent years because market rents haven't been sort of high enough to really justify new office buildings. But this shows you the effect that a large tenant seeking a good quality building can have on the market. It will also be interesting as to whether other tenants in the local market get a little bit jealous of the building and decide that they also need to upgrade. So look, hopefully you found that interesting. If you did, I publish a similar list of news every week on LinkedIn under the Week in Real Estate on my profile. And otherwise, look, if you thought the video was cool, yeah, go ahead, smash that like button. Cheers, bye.